Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? It's Thursday, January 18, 2024, coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. California Congresswoman Barbara Lee is kicked out of a House Foreign Affairs Subcommittee hearing on Cuba policy because the Republican chair didn't like what she had to say. She joins us to tell us what she had to say and why she was kicked out. President Joe Biden stomping in North Carolina, announcing $82 million in new investments from the American Rescue Plan for rural high-speed internet. Also, he talked about how the economy is proving, specifically as it relates to African Americans and Latinos. The time is ticking for the Biden administration to decide about the ban on menthol cigarettes. Carol McGruder, co-founder of and co-chair of the African American Tobacco Control Leadership Council, will join us to discuss it. The Department of Justice report of the 2022 Uvalde mass shooting points out critical mistakes that cost the lives of 21 children. And what would Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s stance be on DEI? Well, some white billionaires and conservatives are up in arms against DEI, saying he will be against it. But conservative Dr. Chris Metzler, will join us to say they are dead wrong. Plus, Spelman College got the largest ever single donation to an HBCU. Their president, Dr. Helene Gale, will join me to talk about this $100 million gift. It is time to bring the funk. I'm Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, y'all. It's Roland Martin, rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
Madam Chair, I served on the subcommittee for many, many years. I'm an African-American woman who has a point of view where in a democracy, those point of views are allowed. And you are doing exactly what you say the Cuban government is by denying myself, a member of Congress who represents the same number of constituents you represent, denying me the opportunity to present my point of view. What is wrong with this picture?
I would love to have this same type of political discourse in Havana.
Let's have it in Havana. If we normalize relations and have normal diplomatic relations where entrepreneurs can thrive in Cuba.
The only people who have that key is the Cuban regime. They could make that happen right now. And unfortunately, you have been friends with those who are not in favor of the Cuban people.
Madam Chair,
I represent
I am a friend of the United States. I am a member of the United States Congress. I am a friend of the global community, and I want to see normal relations relations between every country in the world and the people of the United States and the government of the United States, whether we agree or disagree. The only way we can ensure the values of democracy are promoted is being at the table, engaging with...
Fidel Castro has been the worst dictator that the hemisphere has seen since the arrival of Christopher Columbus in 1492. So the subcommittee, we are about to start this hearing in order. Thank you. The subcommittee on the Western Hemisphere will come to order. The purpose of this hearing is to discuss.
Oh, a little mayhem on Capitol Hill today as Congresswoman Barbara Lee of California, who has made frequent visits to Cuba, has spoken on this issue of relations for quite some time. She joins us right now on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Congresswoman, always glad to see you. I remember when the Obama administration established relationships with Cuba. You were there. We carried your remarks live with what was taking place. What the heck happened today? For this, first of all, on the subcommittee, are you a member of that subcommittee?
Roland, first they're trying to silence me. As a black woman, we have points of views that may not agree or disagree with the chairwoman of a committee. This is unprecedented. Never has a member of Congress been denied a waiver. I was on this committee for maybe 8 to 10 years on the Subcommittee on Appropriations, the Western Hemisphere Subcommittee. Now I'm the ranking member on the Appropriations Subcommittee that funds all of our international humanitarian development assistance, embassy security. I was chairing that committee 2 years ago when we were in the majority. And so, yes, I have been trying to normalize relations with Cuba since the 70s, mind you. When I worked for the great late Congressman Ron Dellums, this is nothing new. It's important to me that a country, an Afro-Hispanic country 90 miles away, have normal relations with the United States. The only way we can get all the differences ironed out and talked about and discussed is having dialogue and having a movement forward like President Obama established. So I've been there many times. This chair of this committee interviewed Fidel Castro, and she has glowing things to say about Fidel Castro. So I don't know what's wrong with her. But the point is, and I thank Debbie Wasserman Schultz because she disagrees with me totally on Cuba, on Israel, on a lot of issues. But she refused to stay at the committee hearing because she was allowed the waiver and I was not. So
this right here is the notice that it was called The Myth of the New Cuban Entrepreneurs, an analysis of the Biden administration's Cuban policy. The chair there is Maria Salazar. And so explain to our viewers and listeners how this works. If you're not a member of a subcommittee, what rights and privileges do members of Congress have to attend or speak on other committees? Just explain to people who don't know the process.
Sure. The process is you ask for a waiver, the waiver is granted, regardless of which party you belong to. It has never been denied. It was denied today because I have a different point of view from the chair. Waivers for members of Congress are automatically granted. Like I said, I don't serve on that committee. I served on it for years. But that has no reason why I should be allowed or not allowed. The point is members of Congress are granted waivers to participate in committee hearings that they're not a part of if, in fact, they ask for a waiver. And that's just what we do. And so she's trying to silence me. What she's trying to do is do what the Republican extremists, MAGA Republican extremists are doing, and that's trying to ban books, trying to, defund diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. They're trying to follow Donald Trump's autocratic agenda. And what her move was today demonstrated that she really doesn't believe in democracy. She believes in only her point of view. She does not believe in the inclusion of different points of views when we talk about Cuba policy. Finally, I'll just say this. I have legislation that I'm writing on Cuban entrepreneurship. I know Cuba very well, and I know that the private sector there needs to be supported and, in fact, helped to develop their economy and to create jobs. And so there are many supporting this legislation, both Democrats and Republicans. And so for her to, on such an issue as entrepreneurship for the Cuban people in the private sector, knowing that I'm writing this legislation is pretty suspect to me. Again, she's trying to silence me. What they do all the time in different ways, if you're an African-American, if you're an African-American woman, if you're a woman, if you're a person of color, this MAGA extremist party, the Republican Party, is trying to shut us out of our voice to try to dismantle this democracy and keep us marginalized. But I'm not going to let that happen.
This is the tweet that Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz of Florida posted. She said, "I was grateful Representative Maria Salazar invited me to join her hearing as we both fight for human rights in Cuba. But I refused to participate when my colleague, Representative Barbara Lee, was shut out due to her opposing views. In democracies, we debate freely and openly, even when we disagree." And so Salazar invites Wasserman Schultz to speak. Were you invited, or did you choose to show up on your own?
No, we both requested a waiver.
Got it. So both of you requested a waiver. And then so she granted the waiver to Wasserman Schultz.
But she did not agree to a waiver for Barbara Lee, because I have different points of views, and her and Wasserman Schultz agree on many issues, which is fine. I talked with Congresswoman Wasserman Schultz quite a bit about our disagreements and what we agree on. But that has nothing to do with a waiver. What has to do with a waiver is that she denied me a waiver because I disagree with her point of view, or she disagrees with mine. She doesn't even know what I was going to say. She does not know, probably doesn't even know about my legislation. She may. But once again, the issue is silencing. And I said, black women have points of views that may or may not be consistent with her point of view. So why would you say no to an African-American woman with a heck of a lot of foreign policy experience, much more than hers?
Wow, that certainly is not something that one would expect. What's your next?
Yes, it is, Roland. Yes, it is. With these MAGA extremist Republicans, that's who they are.
What's your next step?
Pardon?
What's your next step? What's next for you?
I'm going to continue writing my bill. I'm going to continue working on the organizations and the businesses who are supporting it. I'm going to introduce the bill, and it's going to be a bill about how we can help spur the private sector and entrepreneurship in Cuba. I'm going to keep at it. You know me, Roland. I'm not going to stop behind some crap from a chair of a committee who doesn't know what she's talking about and who's trying to act in an undemocratic fashion and who wants to follow Donald Trump and his autocratic lead. It's scary, though, I tell you, in terms of just how blatant they are in terms of trying to dismantle our democracy. So see it in that context. This is another one of their tactics to begin to erode our democracy so Donald Trump can come in and have a total government that does what she did today in terms of its conduct and in terms of its policies. It's shutting down opposition. And she talks about Cuba. Come on, she's doing what she claims that she opposes in terms of shutting down people, silencing people who have different points of views.
Well, Congresswoman Barbara Lee was certainly appreciated. You posted this about an hour ago. Immediately hit you, said, "Hey, I would love to have you come on." So we appreciate you taking some time to come on Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Nice being with you. Thank you. I love your intro. It's a happy intro, Roland. It's beautiful, and after today, I needed that, and so thank you so much.
You can thank In Vogue for that because they actually did that song and they gifted it to me for this show, and so we appreciate them doing that.
It's wonderful. So thank you.
All right, thanks so much.
Made me smile.
All right, appreciate it. Glad to make you smile. Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Folks, we're going to go to the break. When we come back, I'm going to actually play for you the live feed from that hearing. And Congresswoman Lee said that when she started talking, they actually cut the microphone. I'm going to play that for you when we come back right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
We just have one of the oldest cultures that's desperately needed for mutual salvation. That's the consciousness. We have the keys in our roots to save mankind. We get to see the condition of other countries, other oceans, other cultures. And if we believe in God, a lot of us do, He's telling us if you don't get rid of that stuff, that makes somebody superior or inferior, and work together for their mutual salvation. Everybody's gone.
Next on The Frequency, we're talking about racism. My guest, Danica Moore, comes on to discuss her fight against racism that she and her daughter face.
The thing about racism, you can't outrun it, you can't control it, you can't predict when it's going to happen to you or your seed.
She's also going to give us solutions on how to handle the situation. That's here on The Frequency on the Black Star Network.
John Murray, the executive producer of the new Sherry Shepherd Talk Show.
This is your boy, Earthquake.
And you're tuned in to
Roland Martin, Unfiltered.
All right, folks, glad you could join us right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. So this hearing that took place today on Capitol Hill, I'm going to show you the beginning of this hearing. And what actually took place. You can see how this thing unfolded. So watch this.
Hearing will come to order.
Chairwoman, I wanted to ask unanimous consent for Representatives Debbie Wasserman Schultz of Florida and Barbara Lee of California, both senior members of the Committee on Appropriations, to participate in this hearing after all members have had their chance to question the witnesses.
Thank you for that request. Debbie Wasserman Schultz is more than welcome. Barbara Lee is not.
Can I ask you the reasoning, Chairwoman? The reason I ask.
Oh, I can tell you about the reasoning is because Barbara Lee, who I know is a distinguished member of the Democratic Party, is a friends with the oppressors and not with the Cuban people. Barbara Lee has been friends with Fidel Castro, and she was. There are many statements that we can't repeat, and that indicates that she is just not with the people that I represent, who are the Cuban exile community in Miami.
Sure.
She is not a friend of the Cuban people that we are trying to liberate.
Point of personal privilege, if I could respond really quick. Chairwoman, you know I respect your work, even though our positions on different issues with respect to the Western Hemisphere and Latin America are sometimes far apart. I respected your voice and your work and the policy that you've worked on, but this move to not allow one of our colleagues in the United States Congress, who's been elected by the people she represents, to sit and participate on a panel like this is, I think, unprecedented. And if it's happened before, I don't know about it. And I know that, like many, you have been critical of the government in Cuba, in part because it suppresses free speech and suppresses different opinions. And so without getting to the substance of your critique of Congresswoman Lee, Chairwoman, that's exactly what you're doing right now, is you're suppressing somebody from even sitting here and participating in the same way that the Cuban government has suppressed opinion and perspective for decades.
My dear colleague, Cuban people do not have a platform to express themselves like distinguished lady Barbara Lee or Congresswoman Barbara Lee has had, because she has been able to go to many media outlets. She's been able to express her admiration for Fidel Castro, but this is not the site to do that. She has no position, or she is not welcomed on this committee that I humbly chair. So I thank you very much for your request, but not this time. Therefore, the subcommittee on the Western Hemisphere will come.
Now, folks, I want you to let this continue to go because Congresswoman Lee said when she began to speak, they cut the audio. So you cannot hear her speak. That's why this video here that she posted on her on her Twitter feed, pull a video up, y'all. That's why this video was posted, because now you got an opportunity to hear her speak. And so if you can put this in a 2-box, you'll see where she's speaking, but the actual feed that's on the YouTube channel, they actually cut the audio so you would not hear her. That's really what they did. So let's do this. Let's just go back to the other video. Let's keep that video going. I'm going to bring in my panel because I want to hear where that audio picks back up. Do we have it there?
The United States and the government of the United States, whether we agree or disagree, the only way we can ensure the values of
Let's kill the video from her Twitter feed. I only want to kill that one. I want the video from my iPad. So you see how that's going on. Like they cut the video. So I just want to introduce the panel. Keep that going right now. My panel today is Lauren Victoria Burke. She's a writer with the NNPA, coming to us from Arlington, Texas. Dr. Greg Carr, Department of Afro-American Studies, Howard University, Washington, D.C. John Quell Neal, trial lawyer with the John Quell Neal firm out of Atlanta. Greg, I want to start with you because here's the thing here. Here's the thing here that people don't quite understand. And that is, fine, let's go to the panel, folks, and then I will keep the audio up because I want to hear when they come back from that hearing. First of all, people don't have any understanding of the relationship between African Americans and Cuba. You heard Salazar talking about how Congresswoman Barbara Lee is against the Cuban people. No, she's not. But this is the difference between what we know as white Cubans in this country, that group out of Florida that has despised Fidel Castro, and Afro-Cubans, and you've always had this bad blood here, and you've had many of them who never liked the fact that CBC members and African-American civil rights leaders and others had relationships and understandings with Fidel Castro in Cuba.
That's right. That's right. Shout out to Barbara Lee, who has always been consistent on the question of Cuba. We saw that in recent days, one of Assata Shakur's comrades made transition. You know how they let folks out of jail just so that they can pass away a few months after being out of jail. Mutulu Shakur and others. Maria Elvira Salazar. Oh, Congresswoman Salazar. Yes, the Miami 27, Little Havana. The woman who back in November, when she endorsed that fool, Javier Milei, who is now the president of Argentina, she praised Argentina as having only one culture, one religion, and one race, completely homogenous. She's a white nationalist and a white supremacist, and she's a hemispheric white nationalist and white supremacist. Cuba means white Cubans for her, whether it be Miami or Havana. Argentina means white Argentinians. There is no one race in Argentinians. There are Afro-Argentinians and indigenous Argentinians as well, but not in the mind of this racist. She did what she's supposed to do. They have no respect for any form of institutions. She had the gavel and she used it. So what we saw there, of course, was an example of the white nationalists and the Republican Party now saying there is no such thing as the U.S. Congress. There is white nationalism. It's a simple courtesy often, and, you know, Lauren, having worked on the Hill, knows about this a lot better than I ever will. You know, when a member comes into a subcommittee that she or he is not on at the time and wants to give a testimony or make some remarks, it's pro forma, except when you've got a white nationalist with the gavel. Maria Salazar knows that she can't face her white nationalist, dying, I might add, white nationalist constituents in South Florida without standing up and saluting her white nationalist ideology. And that's what we saw at play right there.
Lauren, to that particular point, I mean, it's common courtesy in Congress. And Salazar was adamant, oh, no, I will let Democratic Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz speak. who is obviously a white member of Congress from Florida, I am not letting this black woman, Congresswoman Barbara Lee, speak.
Yeah, so what it's really about is not that you won't let a member who's not on the subcommittee speak. It's about not letting a member who disagrees with your views speak, which is now becoming a standard Republican practice across the board, a complete intolerance for anybody else's opinion or views, and of course the sort of destruction of custom, which they're increasingly good at, from trying to bring guns onto the floor of the U.S. House, in which Speaker Pelosi then had to install metal detectors, brandishing weapons during committee meetings, all sorts of nonsense, because, you know, that's what you do when you think you're so right about everything and you want to have this sort of threatening, menacing, dangerous air. Now, the other thing that's interesting about this, of course, is the playing around with the live feed, the playing around with the audio and cutting all that off. Because, of course, the other thing that they're all about is hiding what their actions are. You want to talk about consciousness of guilt, hiding what your actions are for everybody else, lest they go back and look at any of this independently in any way. You know, so of course, if they did, there would be a bunch of gaslighting, as there is with the footage from January 6, 2021. But at any rate, it just shows you what this is, which is this is just the production of YouTube videos, the production of video for some fundraising email that was later to go out. That's what the Republicans do during these hearings across the board. So, of course, someone's talking and saying something that you don't want to hear, so you cut the sound.